Hi Hippies, welcome back to my channel. If you've seen my previous video, I just did the pregnancy tag. Cat's out the bag, I'm pregnant. And this week I am 19 weeks pregnant. So this video is just pretty much a whole bump date of my first trimester, which guys, it was a struggle. First trimester is from week 1 all the way to week 14. For about 4 weeks, you don't even know you're pregnant until you miss your period. So I will begin with week 4. If you guys keep seeing me look down at my phone because I wrote down some notes as I was going on with my pregnancy, I would jot down my notes or my journal because I knew that I would forget some things that were occurring in a certain week. Also, just a little backstory, I am Rh negative. I did have a miscarriage last year, actually last March, so this is my rainbow baby. So I found out at exactly 4 weeks that I was pregnant. I was like 2 days late of my period, and after my miscarriage, my cycle was a little off. But so I miscarried in March, so by September, actually by August, my cycle was back on track. So my husband and I weren't exactly trying, but we also weren't preventing. We did have every intention to start our family in 2019. Honestly, I'm shocked that it has happened so soon and so quickly. And yeah, so I found out at about 4 weeks, and I mean, week 4, honestly, I didn't feel any different. By the time I got into week 5, I was starting to feel nauseous. Like everything was making me feel sick. I am not a vegetarian. I love carne asada. I love turkey, ground beef. I love bacon. But just even the thought of meat would make me nauseous. And so my husband would cook like tacos, and I would just want to eat the tortillas and like maybe some avocado. Like I just had no appetite. And honestly, first trimester, I lost 5 pounds. But I didn't have really any morning sickness. The only day I had morning sickness was Christmas morning, and that was like the worst. And I was like, God, no, please. I don't want any more morning sickness. Like, I was having anxiety that I really wasn't having that many symptoms. So that morning I kind of was like, okay, I feel pregnant. But at the same time, I was like, I hate throwing up. Like, that's just something even as a child, I think I've thrown up maybe like 4 times in my life. And it was like once as a child, and I was like, never again. So by week 6, I started spotting, and it was actually it was like towards the end of week 5 going into week 6 I started spotting. And I called my doctor because I was freaking out. I was like, no, I don't want to miscarry. And I went into the doctor. They checked my blood levels, and I was hoping they'd give me an ultrasound, but they did not give me an ultrasound until week 8. And so when I was spotting, he suggested that it was like leftover blood from implantation bleeding. Also, during weeks 5 and 6, my breasts were so sore. Like the minute I did not have to wear a bra, I would take off my bra. And just like even like after I'd shower, like using a towel to dry, that would be really painful. So I hated it, but at the same time, it was kind of a relief because I was like, okay, I don't have morning symptoms. I mean, I don't have morning sickness, but I can depend on these symptoms to like kind of remind myself you're still pregnant. So moving on to week 7, I was starting to feel really, really anxious. Like my breasts weren't even sore anymore. The nausea had left. I just felt like I wasn't pregnant. And I was just freaking out because I didn't have a doctor's appointment for another week. And I felt so anxious. I did something really crazy. I started feeling my cervix, and to me, it didn't feel like it was closed. And so I did what all these other crazy people do. I turned to Google. So I pretty much self-diagnosed myself with an incompetent cervix. If you don't know where that is, actually it's really common to a lot of women. Your cervix isn't completely closed during pregnancy, and sometimes, unfortunately, that can cause a miscarriage. So I was freaking out about that, and I literally just turned to prayer and to writing in my journal and just watching videos of other YouTubers who had loss of symptoms, like their pregnancy symptoms were gone. So that's why I decided to record this video. Like, if you feel like your symptoms are completely gone, you don't have morning sickness, your breasts aren't tender anymore, you still are probably pregnant. It's crazy how the body is, and it's like one week I felt this way, the next week I felt like this, and I just had to turn it to God and just be completely patient, which is really hard for me. So going to week 8, my first ultrasound with this pregnancy, I was actually really nervous. With my miscarriage, I went into the ultrasound thinking nothing could happen, you know, and when I heard that the twins didn't have a heartbeat, I was devastated. So that's why with this pregnancy, I was really nervous for my first ultrasound. And so my doctor has been awesome. He actually is the one that suggested the Rhogam shot and suggested for me to do acupuncture so that this pregnancy, well, you know, from last time, my next pregnancy would be successful. So the minute he placed the, I don't even know what it's called, you know, the ultrasound thing, the gel and the ultrasound thing, he was like, I see a heartbeat. And before I could even see it, see the baby or anything, he just blurted that out, and I turned to my husband and I just couldn't stop crying. I was so happy, and my husband got a little teary-eyed too. It was just such a moment I will never forget. Like the first time seeing my baby. So the baby was measuring at the correct size, the heartbeat. The heart rate on my first ultrasound was, I think, 142. So that's why I think it's a boy. Like, 1, I haven't had really morning sickness. 2, it's a pretty low heartbeat. It's under 150. Well, now it's a little higher, but still in my heart, I think it's a boy, guys. So after my first ultrasound, I felt really relieved. I was like, okay, great. Like, honestly, this seems like it's meant to be. You can breathe, start embracing your pregnancy, and just be completely happy and practice your faith over fear. So moving on to week 9. So by week 9, I hope this isn't TMI, but I was feeling super constipated. Like, I barely used the bathroom. I would, like, number 2 maybe once every 3 days, and my doctor said that's completely normal. My uterus started to expand, and I could honestly feel it, like right under my belly button. It was so painful, so I started freaking out about that too. But yeah, I called and emailed my doctor all the time. I'm surprised he hasn't dropped me. But you know, once I found out that was normal, I felt better. So moving on to week 10. Week 10, I was going to Atlanta for actually a flight attendant interview for Delta, and I was actually hesitant about going back and forth about should I do it, should I not do it. Clearly, fate took matters into its hands, and I did not go to the interview because I started spotting. And so I was like, okay, this is an implantation bleeding. What is going on? So I started spotting, let's see, I was flying out, was it Friday or Saturday morning? I started spotting on Friday, and I was like, okay, let me see if this continues, because, you know, I've read on it, I've Googled everything, and I realized that it was normal to spot, but if it exceeds more than 24 hours, so I missed my flight on Saturday, and I decided to wait it out. The spotting was on and off all weekend, but by Wednesday, it was either Wednesday or Thursday, guys, my pregnancy brain is horrible. I told my husband, like, let's not take any chances, let's go to the hospital. Well, first I called my doctor, and my doctor was like, if you feel like you really need to go to the hospital, then go to the hospital. So we went to the ER, and they did an ultrasound. The baby was fine. So it was pretty much my uterus just stretching, which was causing me to spot a little. And they also gave me another Rhogam shot, which is an injection that I need for my blood type. Last miscarriage, pretty much the lack of having a Rhogam shot in between two of my miscarriages pretty much caused my miscarriage. But so I felt relieved once I knew that the baby was fine. I didn't feel like I overreacted at all. Like, if you feel like something's wrong, go to the ER. Like, it's better to be safe than sorry, and that's been my mentality throughout this pregnancy. If I feel like anything is abnormal, I email, call my doctor, or I'll go to the ER. So the doctor did put me on bed rest for 2 weeks, and guys, I was so miserable. I was so sad. Like, I knew that this was best for me and for my baby, but I just felt like I was on house arrest. And luckily, like, my husband would like rent movies, and like my best friends send me care packages, and everyone was checking on me. Being at home for 24 hours for 2 weeks was driving me crazy, but like I understood that this was best for my body, for my child. And just be patient with yourself, guys, like, and put into perspective, like, your body, you're growing a human being. Like, this isn't like an everyday activity. So get as much rest, drink as much water in your first trimester. I know it's sometimes hard to eat because you feel nauseous or you have morning sickness, but it's also important to remember to stay healthy. So that was pretty much weeks 11 through 13. By the time I got to week 14, I was so happy. You know, it was time to celebrate, and I just felt like I did a big accomplishment. Like, no, I haven't completed my full term yet, but I felt like I could breathe a little more. And week 14, like, I felt like my life was back to normal. Like, I was able to go out and do things, and it's just like, it just switched. I'm like, okay, I survived first trimester. The only thing is that my tailbone, because my uterus was expanding so much, my little baby shifted my tailbone, so it was very painful sometimes to walk and sit. I don't know if you're experiencing any of this. And one of my best friends and her mom gave me a yoga ball, and guys, that has helped tremendously. Also, one of my best friends is a physical therapist, and she sent me some exercises. If anybody wants me to forward those to you, let me know, because having your tailbone shifted is so painful. But other than that, I was so happy to survive my first trimester. It was a period of anxiety. I learned so much about my strength in first trimester. You know, I experienced a lot of things that I was very scared of, and my faith brought it through it. Understanding that this is like huge. Growing a human isn't like I said, isn't like an everyday activity. So my advice to you new mommies in first trimester, just make sure that you are resting and understanding your body. And also during first trimester, I set up a lot of my appointments, like my prenatal nutritionist appointment. Also, I didn't really do much research in like what hospital. It was just more like focusing on my body. And once I'll dive into second trimester, I've been so productive. So it feels good to be back to myself. That's why I actually skipped out on my YouTube channel, because I just wasn't mentally there. Like, my focus was 100% on surviving first trimester. So many blessings and baby dust to you all. And if you have any questions, just comment down below or send me an email. Later, hippies.